In a quiet village nestled among green hills, there lived a young woman named Kisa Gotami. She was full of life and love, especially for her little son. He was the light of her life, and she cared for him more than anything in the world. Every day, she would hold him close, singing sweet songs and watching him grow. But one day, something terrible happened. Kisa Gotami's little boy fell ill. She tried everything she could to make him better, but nothing worked. His breathing grew weaker, and before she could even understand what was happening, her son had passed away in her arms. The world that was once full of joy and laughter turned dark and cold. Kisa Gotami couldn't accept what had happened. She couldn't believe her son was gone. Holding his lifeless body, she ran through the village, knocking on doors, begging for help. Please, she cried, someone must have a cure. Someone must know how to bring my son back to life. But each person she met shook their heads sadly. They had no medicine that could bring back the dead. We are so sorry for your loss, they would say. But death is something that comes to us all. Yet Kisa Gotami was too deep in her grief to understand. She kept searching, hoping that someone, somewhere, would have the answer she was looking for. After hours of searching, someone suggested she visit the wise Buddha, who was known for his deep understanding and compassion. With her last hope, Kisa Gotami rushed to find him. She found Buddha sitting peacefully under a large Bodhi tree, surrounded by his followers. His presence was calm and comforting, like a warm light in the middle of her dark storm. Trembling and tearful, she laid her son at his feet and begged, please, Lord Buddha, bring my son back to life. Buddha looked at her with deep compassion and understanding. He knew how much pain she was in. Instead of turning her away, he gave her a task. Kisa Gotami, he said gently, go into the village and find me a mustard seed. But it must come from a household where no one has ever died. Kisa Gotami's heart lifted. A mustard seed. Surely that would be easy to find. She picked up her son and hurried from house to house, asking for a mustard seed. At the first house, an elderly woman listened to Kisa's request. The woman agreed to give her a mustard seed, but when Kisa asked if anyone in the house had ever died, the woman sighed sadly. Yes, my dear, we have lost many loved ones over the years. Disheartened but not defeated, Kisa Gotami moved on to the next house, and the next, and the next. Everywhere she went, she heard the same stories. Families who had lost fathers, mothers, children, and friends. Each home carried its own tale of grief and loss. As the day went on, Kisa Gotami began to understand what Buddha was trying to show her. No one in the village was free from death. Every family had faced it just as she had. Her grief, though deep and personal, was something shared by everyone. By the time she returned to Buddha, she no longer carried her son's body. Her heart, though still heavy with sadness, had found a new peace. She knelt before Buddha and said, I could not find a house untouched by death. I now see that death is a part of life, something we all must face. Buddha smiled gently at her, seeing the change in her eyes. You are right, Kisa Gotami. Death is a part of life. It is a truth that connects us all. Understanding this is the first step towards finding peace. From that day on, Kisa Gotami became a devoted follower of Buddha. She no longer clung to her grief, but instead embraced the teachings of compassion, understanding, and the impermanence of life. She learned that while we cannot avoid loss, we can find comfort in knowing that we are not alone in our suffering. And with this wisdom, she found a new strength, a peace that she had never known before. In the end, Kisa Gotami discovered that the real cure for her pain was not in changing the past, but in accepting the present and finding peace within herself. Thank you. Like the video and hit subscribe.